Welcome to Northwest Arkansas Community Parent Resource Center's training iPads and apps, using assistive technology for children with all abilities. NWA CPRC is a program of Arkansas Support Network funded by the Office of Special Education. My name is Stacy Bell. I'm the Technology Specialist for the Northwest Arkansas Community Parent Resource Center. I manage our website, social medias, database collection, and provide resources on various types of assistive technology to families that need it. We will cover several topics in this training. First, understanding the iPad. Second, applications you can use. Third, accessibility features on the iPad. Fourth, adaptive gear that goes along with the iPad. And last, ways to help get the iPad written into your child's IEP. The iPad was first released in the spring of 2010, and since its creation, the limits of what we thought were possible has been pushed further and further. The iPad is essentially a computer, very condensed and portable. It's in the iOS family, Apple's operating system for their mobile devices, which also includes iPod, iPhone, etc. The newest version weighs less than 1 pound. The screen is what's called a multi-touch display. The surface of the iPad can recognize up to 10 touches at once, so think of it as being able to register 10 fingers. The iPad's surface is Gorilla Glass, pretty strong, but when it does break, the glass is self-contained. Its body is made of aluminum, which makes it quite sturdy. However, the corners are the most susceptible to damage when the iPad is dropped, so that is something you must be mindful of. Lastly, it has a 10-hour battery, which is much more efficient than, say, a laptop. There are several different models of iPad to choose from, and within each model there are several options depending on how much content you will need it to hold. It's best to evaluate whether you'd like a bigger or smaller screen first, and then once you decide on that, you can choose whether you want the fastest, best, and most hard drive space, or if an older model with less hard drive space can fit your needs. You can see how the cost varies, and some even have cellular access with plans you can connect, wherever a phone can connect, along with the built-in Wi-Fi access. You can easily turn on and off the internet plan, such as when you go on a trip, turn it on and then turn it off once the trip's over. If you're looking for a less costly option, places like eBay, Amazon, or Craigslist are good places to purchase a device secondhand. You might be wondering how much something like 16 gigabytes can hold, or how much something like 64 gigabytes can hold. Here's a visual to help give you an idea of how much these sizes of hard drives can hold. Once you know this information, you can apply it to how you will use the iPad and decide which option is best for you. If you're going to be saving a lot of video or very complex applications, you'll want a higher capacity because those things take up a lot of space. Next, we'll discuss how to actually use the iPad. The first thing to know is how to use the tactile buttons to do things like turn on the iPad. To turn it on, you'll hold down a small button on the top side of the iPad for a couple of seconds, and you should see the Apple icon on the screen, which will indicate you were successful. The volume is also a similar button that you can find along the edge. You press one side to make it increase the volume and the other to decrease. The only other button that isn't on the screen of the iPad is called the home button, which is a circular button on the face of the iPad at the bottom. When you press the home button once, it will wake up the iPad, or if it's already on, it will take you to the main home screen. If you double press the button, it brings up what's called the Quick App Switcher menu. This shows all the apps that are currently open, and you can scroll from side to side with your finger. If you swipe an app that is open up, it will close the app and allow your device to run faster. The way that you interact with the iPad outside of the tactile buttons are called gestures. The main gesture that you'll use the most often is called the tap, and it is as it sounds, just simply touching the iPad. This selects things mostly. Swipe is the next one, and you use the swiping motion to go between things like pictures or apps, etc. Next is pinch, and this is the main gesture to zoom in and out. Next is the double tap. You use this to select things and zoom in on them. Lastly is the tap and drag, which allows you to move things around on the screen. Now we're going to take a look at just a small sampling of all the different applications available on the iPad that will help children with all abilities. As of January 2015, 1.4 million apps exist, and that number is growing continuously and rapidly. The first batch of applications here have to do with phonics and letters. Endless Alphabet and Endless Reader are apps where you select a letter or word and then it shows placeholders for the letter or word while the actual letters or words scatter around the page. The child has to drag the letters or words back into their placeholders. As they do so, the letters or words make sounds over and over to help them associate that sound with the letter or word. AlphaTots is a spelling app where you have to drag the letters into their correct places. Reading Rainbow is an app where you visit different islands which contain different books that fall in line with the theme of that island. You can see the text and it highlights it as you read along, and you can read independently or have it read to you. Writing Wizard is a guided tracing app. Write My Name is pretty self-explanatory. It's just an app that teaches you to write your name. Speech with Milo is a speech app that builds basic sequencing skills by ordering 3 cards showing Milo and his friend Melvin performing a task and then offers a reward. Little Writer is another tracing app. You can choose to trace upper or lowercase letters, numbers, and more. Now we'll discuss some apps pertaining to math, numbers, and shapes. Endless 123 is much like the 2 other Endless apps on the last page. The child will select a number and drag the numbers in order while hearing the name of the number over and over. Elmo Loves 123s is an app full of games, activities, and videos which will help teach your child about numbers and counting. Doodle Critter Math Shapes lets the child interact and play with basic shapes such as triangle, rectangle, square, pentagon, hexagon, and circle. Various motivational activities will inspire children to learn more about shapes. Bugs and Numbers is an app that provides an extensive collection of unique games dedicated to learning and practicing a wide range of math skills in a non-traditional way. Moose Math engages kids in a mathematical adventure and teaches counting, addition, subtraction, sorting, geometry, and more. Teacher Tilly is a unique puzzle app that features over 40 colorful puzzles, several difficulty levels, and the ability to create new puzzles using photographs from your camera roll or photo album. Little Digits displays number characters by detecting how many little fingers you put down. Children can learn to associate the number on the screen with the number of fingers they place down, while enjoying unique characters and animations of the Little Digits world. Finally, Peg Plus Cat is an app from PBS Kids for children to practice math skills and by learning and creating songs. Here are some general learning apps that we really love. Monkey Preschool Lunchbox is a collection of 7 exciting educational games for your preschooler, ages 2 to 5. There are 7 different games that teach kids about colors, letters, counting, shapes, sizes, matching, and differences. Jumpstart Preschool Magic is Frankie the dog on a magical learning adventure that will show just how fun learning can be with 15 games designed to teach more than 10 math, pre-reading, and critical thinking skills for school. Beck and Bo is a fun educational app that's sure to engage little kids in a creative way, while helping them build their early vocabulary. Kids are invited to build beautiful animated scenes by dragging and dropping objects, animals, and props in their proper place. While they do that, they listen to their names and sounds. Piece by piece, they bring to life colorful and fascinating scenes full of sounds, animation, and fun interactive activities. In the Leo's Pad app, you join a young Leonardo da Vinci and his friends on big adventures filled with exciting games woven into the stories. Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood is another PBS app. The child is learning as they explore bedtime, bath time, doctor, and more at Daniel Tiger's house. With this Daniel Tiger app, children have the chance to play about some of Daniel's everyday experiences that might be a lot like theirs. As they play, young children will be learning a little bit more about their place in the world. Bugs and Bubbles is a collection of games addressing all sorts of learning opportunities with a great artistic style that's interesting and engaging for children and adults alike. Face Cards is a safe, easy-to-use resource for exploring feelings and the faces that go with them. Face Cards portray the 10 most common emotion expressions. People on the autism spectrum use face cards to identify and explain feelings. Face cards are also used by teachers, parents, and therapists with both children and adults across a range of abilities. Show Me is a wonderful tool to use to teach. It allows you to record drawing and writing on a screen as it records your voice, so it has great versatility in that you can use it to teach whatever needed. There are many other applications that can help with fine motor skills, spatial reasoning, and other things like that. These are also just plain fun. You have various art-themed apps such as Cookie Doodle. You design and create cookies in that one. Finger Paint with Sounds is just as it seems, as is coloring. Build a Scare is a fun app where you get to build monsters. There are a couple music apps here as well. Disco Fingers is an easy app that uses simple taps on the screen to create funky musical beats. Virtuoso is another music app that's set to look like a piano keys, and uses taps on the screen to play it. The iPad is also a great place to expose kids to a plethora of educational and fun videos via a few different apps. Two wonderful apps are YouTube Kids and PBS. YouTube now has an app that is specifically for children, not only to filter out all of the videos that might not be appropriate for children, but also offers a nice interface that has several different categories to help the child explore, learn, and discover. The other good video app is PBS Kids app. On this app, your child can watch on demand all their favorite PBS shows such as Cat in the Hat, Dinosaur Train, Super Y, and lots more. There are plenty of memory finding apps available for free or very low cost in the App Store. A couple of those apps that we like are Animatch, which is a memory game with animal faces. The others are Pick and Seek, which gives you beautifully illustrated scenes that have various items that when you touch them, they animate. And then the App Store has a bunch of other interactive book apps, from Disney to fairy tales and other stories to the integrated iBooks application. The App Store also has some apps that are helpful in other ways. There are plenty of sensory-themed apps to help any child be engaged or calm down. Fluid is an app that lets you draw your finger across the screen, which in turn ripples the water over the river stones underneath. The Art of Glow emits glowing multicolored lines on a black screen wherever you take your fingers. There are some apps that will also help your child follow routine with a picture schedule. If they're older, help them make and implement a grocery list, as well as educate them on things like what clothing to wear depending on the weather. apps that educators will find useful on the iPad as well. There are curation apps such as Autism app that constantly updates, revealing the latest apps along with reviews geared toward not only people with autism, but also a variety of other disabilities. You can also find apps to help with P meetings, behavior tracking, and creating your own social stories for use. Lastly, the amount of apps made for the iPad that help people speak who are nonverbal or have a hard time verbally communicating otherwise are innumerable. Here are some of our favorites. Proloquo to Go is the most comprehensive, heavy-duty one that we have found, but it also comes with a hefty price tag. It has thousands of words integrated, but it also gives you the ability to add your own words and pictures. You also have several voices to choose from in the text-to-speech feature. Tap to Talk and Verbally are similar programs. Dragon Dictation is the opposite. You talk to Dragon Dictation and it writes down what you're saying. Choice Board is a visual digital tap-to-talk board and it allows the person to make choices between things that are on the screen. Similarly, the Yes/No app is a simple way for the person to choose yes or no when you're speaking to them. Kidogo is an app that replaces the traditional integrated keyboard of the iPad, making it easier for those who are just beginning to type or have visual impairments. If you didn't see an app here that fit any of the needs or categories that you or a child you work with needs, use the App Store search function. They've greatly improved the way that you can search for apps, and it's easier than ever to type in the app name or even just keywords of what you're looking for. There is a very good chance that you'll find what you need pretty easily. If you're finding it difficult to afford an iPad or the apps from the App Store, there are an array of places to look on our resources listed in our website at nwacprc.org. Also, you can almost always find free or light versions of apps you want to use that can at least give you limited access to the app without paying. But also sometimes apps will be free or reduced for a limited amount of time by the developer. There are different apps that curate these to help you find when they go on sale. You can search for sale alert or something like that in the App Store, and you will find plenty of choices. Now we're going to discuss the wide array of accessibility features that Apple has added to the iPad that makes it such a great tool for so many. iOS, more possibilities for every ability. iPhone, iPad, and iPod Touch come with assistive features that have changed the learning landscape for students with special needs. These innovative technologies allow every student to experience the fun and function of iOS. Here we have different categories that Apple has broken down their features into: learning and literacy, vision, hearing, and physical and motor skills. Let's get into what they have to offer. Guided access is a learning feature. It can make an iOS device stay on one app by disabling the home button and even restrict touch input on certain areas of the screen, so wandering taps and gestures won't distract from learning. A triple click of the home button will bring up a screen for you to enable or disable guided access with your passcode. Assistive touch is a physical and motor accessible feature. What this does is add a small white button to the screen that enables you to enact any action that you do with a gesture or a tactile button without having to go the traditional route. This is optimal if the user has limited movement or dexterity capabilities. VoiceOver is a feature geared toward low vision or vision impaired users. It enables the user to navigate the iPad without having to see the screen. You can swipe to navigate, double tap to select, or 3-finger swipe to scroll. You can choose to turn the screen on or leave it off for this feature. It lets you practice and learns the gestures and what they do. The iPad also supports Bluetooth Braille displays. Siri, or what's also known as dictation, is a versatile tool that works for those with learning, vision, or hearing difficulties. It's also useful if the user cannot type. All that is needed is to hold down the home button and/or tap the microphone button to ask your question or give your command. Siri is integrated with VoiceOver as well, so that blind and low vision students can ask a question and hear the answer read out loud. Triple Click Home is a feature that, with 3 rapid presses of the home button, can bring up a quick access menu to toggle various accessibility options that you set in the settings menu beforehand. Speak Selection is a vision feature that allows you to select text and have the text be read aloud with a digitized voice. White on black or invert colors is an option that is helpful for visually impaired users. When it's turned on, it greatly increases the color contrast on the display by inverting the colors. There are many more accessibility features than the ones I have covered in detail. Some general ones include multiple orientations, enabling the iPad to be moved vertically or horizontally, and the screen flipping for each side respectively. Predictive text anticipates what you're typing before or while you're typing it, which allows for faster communication, since you don't have to type the entire word. Bluetooth capability is very valuable. It allows a variety of switches, headphones, keyboards, and other devices to work in conjunction with the iPad. The tactile buttons are on the iPad to provide ease of access in turning the iPad on, changing volume, and more. There are also audible and visual alerts that can set on your iPad that will work for a variety of reasons that can help a number of users in different ways. A few of the other vision-related features include a zoom, which is a screen magnifier, wireless braille displays, FaceTime to make signing and lip reading easier when you're communicating with someone, speak auto text, as well as larger, bolder text. Some features geared toward those with physical and motor disabilities include switch control, devices that can be attached via Bluetooth or other means to your iPad to enable a tactile switch outside of your iPad to work in helping control it. Home click speed can be adjusted to suit each individual person's needs, and as we talked about before, there are various ways to make accessibility shortcuts available. An additional learning disability feature is Safari Reader, which presents a text, article, etc. only to you on a website, so all of the extra stuff like ads, flashing titles, and things like that are omitted, allowing for easier reading. Lastly, for those with hearing difficulties, iPads can work with some hearing aids. There's just an adjustable speaking rate option that can slow down how rapidly the iPad speaks to you. There are many options for subtitles and captioning, as well as options for various types of headphones, and there's also a setting to change the sound from stereo to mono audio. Restrictions is a big feature for many of us working with kids that are younger and don't understand where they can go and where they shouldn't during various times or ever. You can set restrictions for most things on the iPad that the user cannot access without proper passcode. You can find the place to set up restrictions in the Settings app under General. You can remove certain apps from their access by turning them on or off. You can also turn on or off location services. You can restrict whomever from making account changes unless they have the passcode, as well as app purchases. You can sort the type of content that the user is able to use by rating. You can turn access to the Game Center on and off, as well as a few other various settings. This is an invaluable feature, especially if the student is using this device at school, where teachers may be leery of the student using the iPad in a way that they shouldn't be. Adaptive gear for the iPad has revolutionized the iPad even further. These are things that make the iPad more accessible and enjoyable for everyone to use. Here's some iPad accessories that make iPad use a whole lot easier for many users. First off is the bub cap. This is something that you stick over the home button to prevent the child from being able to touch it and get out of the app that they're in. Fortunately, with newer iPads, this feature to disable the home button is built into the iPad, but if you have a first generation iPad, this is still useful. Gloves are an easy piece of adaptive gear that you can purchase anywhere inexpensively. If you cut off the finger of one of the gloves, it makes it so that you don't have to isolate that one finger while you're using the iPad. The gloves do it for you, so that the iPad only registered one touch of the finger that is uncovered. A stylus is a helpful way to do finer motor work. It works like a pencil, and it's an alternative to using your fingers. There are many mounts with a variety of ways that it can attach to the body, the wheelchair, desk, or other places. You also have the option of switch access. This is a third-party device that connects to the iPad either by the headphone jack or Bluetooth feature that enables you to use switches that you can press with hands, feet, or other body parts without even having to use the iPad screen. The voiceover controller is something that allowed the user of a first-generation iPad to control it with voice only. However, it is now built into later generations of iPads, which is a nice feature. This is a sampling of some of the cases that are available. If you have an iPad, no matter your ability, you most certainly want to have a case on it. Without a case, the technology itself is somewhat vulnerable, especially if it's dropped on one of its corners. There's a good chance that it's going to break. Things like the rugged case or survivor cases are built so that if they are dropped, nothing will happen to it. The LifeProof case does that and also protects against water and extreme temperatures to a degree. Then there are cases like Big Grip's case or the iAdapter that are modeled for easier handling. This is only a few of the many cases available for iPad. There are also some keyboard options for those using the iPad. The big Bluetooth keyboard is a regular size keyboard. It has the letters very clearly labeled and is color-coded for easier visibility. There are also other options for keyboards, big and small, that connect to the iPad additionally via Bluetooth. If you aren't interested in having a separate keyboard, there's also something known as a key guard, which is a piece of plastic that lays over the iPad screen. The plastic feels like raised buttons over where the integrated keyboard for iPad pops up when it's ready to type. This helps distinguish one button from another while still using the keyboard already included in the iPad. There's a case called the Connect that has an amplifying built-in speaker system that allows for more volume outside of what the iPad normally has. The iPad is also able to connect to a variety of headphones that connect again by the Bluetooth function, as well as the headphone jack that make it easier for some to hear. Sometimes it's hard to know where to start when thinking about your child using this device at school, so let's discuss incorporating iPads into the IEP. The first thing you need to think about is how is it better? I'm not advocating a specific brand, even though this training is for iPad. The usefulness of a tablet can apply across the board. You can do a lot of the same things that you do with the iPad with different tablets. When we're talking about how is it better than other assistive technology such as the Dynavox, which also verbalizes communication, it's important to look at the price points, the size and shape, and choose what is easiest for your child to hold and handle, or mount if necessary. iPad tends to be cheaper than other technology of this caliber, officially known as assistive devices or augmentative and alternative communication devices. This device in particular has a bunch of apps outside of what you can do with something like a Dynavox, including apps concerning special education, communication, life skills management, and all of them are all included in one device. The iPad's also seen as more socially acceptable than other devices that children or young adults might not know about. And lastly, the iPad is very, very lightweight. It's not bulky at all and can be mounted or positioned in a multitude of ways that we've already gone over in the adaptive gear section. Mobile technology is a hot topic. One of the questions that's popping up all over the place with both parents and educators is, how do I get an iPod or an iPad written into the IEP? The process is the same as for all assistive technology. The Individuals with Disabilities in Education Act, also known as the IDEA. The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA, is a federal special education law that addresses services for children with disabilities set into law in 1975. IDEA requires that states provide a free, appropriate public education, including related services for children with disabilities. This law requires schools to provide necessary assistive technology devices and services to help children with disabilities receive an appropriate education. To that end, every child with a disability must be considered for assistive technology. Now, the word considered is not defined by law. So you can argue, depending on what actions they take, in favor of your child and whether they have been rightfully considered or not. And then also, there's a brief process during each annual IEP or IFSP meeting in which you can bring up assistive technology and address the needs that your child has. There are some questions you might ask yourself to be prepared for before an IEP meeting, as well as some things to do to assure that when you do meet, you've already exhausted other options. How does the iPod or iPad meet the need over any other technology? What other technologies have been tried? What is or is not working? Is it a need, or is it just a nice thing to have? Do I have any data or evidence that supports the need? Is it expected that the student will not be able to make reasonable progress toward educational goals without assistive technology devices and services? If yes, describe what a useful system of supports, devices, and services for the student would be like if there was such a system of tools. Here are some additional questions to think about. What other technologies have been tried? How does the iPod or iPad meet the need over any other assistive technology? Brainstorm specific tools that could be included in a system that addresses student needs. Select the most promising tools for trials in natural environments, such as the school. Plan the specifics of the trial, expected changes, when or how the tools will be used, cues, and etc. Collect data on the effectiveness of the iPad. The continuum of assistive technology. Assistive technology can be thought of as a continuum. On one end, there are no-tech solutions, and on the other end of the continuum, there are high-tech devices. Too often, when making technology decisions, there's a tendency to start at the upper end of the technology continuum, when in fact, it's better to start at a lower point. With this, you end up with less expensive and less complicated options. Assistive technology devices come in many different forms. Light or low tech, which would be like a pencil grip, a slant board, or a handheld magnifier. Medium tech, which would be like switch operated toy, battery operated communication device, etc. And then finally you have high tech, which would be the computer software program or power wheelchair, computer based augmentative communication device, or environmental control system. I'd like to leave you with a quote that really displays the importance of technology. For people without disabilities, technology makes things easier. For people with disabilities, technology makes things possible. This was taken from an IBM training manual from 1991. Thank you for attending our training. If you have questions or comments, please do get in touch with us in any number of ways that we have listed here. Also, connect with us on social media. We curate information on trainings and information and put some we make ourselves there as well. We're here to help. There's no question too small or too big we won't try to help you with. We'd like to thank OSEP as this training was made possible with a grant from the Office of Special Education Programs. Take care.